It was the last week of January, 2024. Queen Camilla stood in a newly opened cancer support center in North London, smiling at patients and their families, asking gentle questions about their treatment, their fears, their hope. What nobody in that room knew, what she could not tell a single soul, was that just days earlier, her own husband, the King of the United Kingdom, had been diagnosed with cancer. The diagnosis was not yet public. The palace had not spoken. And Camilla, the Queen Consort, had been effectively sworn to silence. She carried the weight of that secret into a room full of people fighting the very disease that now threatened her own family. As she would later admit, she was longing to let it out. But she could not. Not yet. This is the story behind that silence. The story of what it was really like inside the palace walls when King Charles received his cancer diagnosis, how the Queen navigated those impossible days, and what her recent revelations tell us about the human reality of royal illness. A reality that, for centuries, has been hidden from public view. Let us go back to the beginning. On the 17th of January, 2024, Buckingham Palace issued a statement that seemed routine. King Charles, then 75, would undergo a corrective procedure for a benign enlarged prostate. The condition, medically known as benign prostatic hyperplasia, is common in men over 50. It was described as a short, routine intervention, followed by a brief period of recuperation. The king entered the London Clinic, a private hospital, on the 26th of January. He underwent the procedure and was discharged 3 days later, on the 29th. At the time, the palace presented it as a minor health matter, a brief pause in royal duties, nothing more. But something else had been found. During that hospital procedure for his prostate, doctors noted a separate issue of concern. Subsequent diagnostic tests identified a form of cancer. The palace did not disclose the specific type, and to this day, it has never been revealed. The only detail Buckingham Palace has ever confirmed is that it is not prostate cancer. That single fact, that the cancer was unrelated to the prostate condition that had brought him to hospital, would become the defining parameter of public knowledge about the king's health. Everything else remained behind palace doors. The king learned of his diagnosis in late January, just as he was beginning his recovery from the prostate procedure. And almost immediately, a new protocol came into effect: secrecy. The king himself made the decision to share his diagnosis publicly, but only when the palace was ready. In the days between the diagnosis and the official announcement, the circle of those who knew was extraordinarily small, and Queen Camilla was at the center of it. On the 31st of January, 2024, 5 full days before the palace would make any public statement, Camilla carried out a pre-scheduled engagement. She officially opened a new Maggie's Centre at the Royal Free Hospital in Hampstead, North London. Maggie's is a cancer support charity, and Camilla had been its president since 2008. She had visited centers before, spoken with patients, offered comfort. But this visit was different. This time, she was not just a royal patron offering sympathy from a distance. She was standing in a room full of people whose experiences she suddenly understood from an intensely personal perspective. In a film released to mark Maggie's 30th anniversary, Camilla spoke candidly about that day. She recalled, "Nobody could say anything at the time. That was quite difficult. I almost said something, but I felt that it wasn't the time to say. I looked at everybody who was suffering and all the relations, and I think it made me realize even more how important these places were." She admitted to Maggie's chief executive, Dame Laura Lee, "I was just longing to let it out, but obviously I couldn't." What makes that admission so striking is the context. Camilla was not simply keeping a secret. She was actively performing royal composure while her husband's life had been turned upside down. She was meeting families who were confronting cancer themselves, listening to their stories, offering them encouragement, all while carrying the knowledge that her own family had just received the same devastating news. She could not show the slightest flicker of vulnerability. The royal code, never complain, never explain, had never been tested quite like this. A royal source later told Radar Online, Camilla had effectively been sworn to silence. She was carrying this enormous private worry while standing in rooms filled with people confronting cancer themselves. There were moments when she desperately wanted to explain why their stories were affecting her so profoundly, but she knew the king's diagnosis was not hers to reveal. That phrase, sworn to silence, captures something essential about the machinery of the monarchy. In the royal household, information is power, and information about the sovereign's health is among the most guarded of all. The king's health is not a private matter in the ordinary sense. It is a matter of state. The monarch's ability to fulfill constitutional duties, to remain above politics, to represent the nation, all of it depends on perception. A king who appears frail or incapacitated can destabilize the institution. This is why, for centuries, royal health was shrouded in secrecy. Queen Elizabeth II, Charles's mother, believed that matters concerning the health of royal family members must be handled discreetly. Illness was not discussed. The public was told only what it absolutely needed to know, and often less. Charles himself, however, has taken a different approach. When the palace finally made the announcement on the 5th of February, 2024, the statement was carefully crafted but remarkably open. It read, "During the king's recent hospital procedure for benign prostate enlargement, a separate issue of concern was noted. Subsequent diagnostic tests have identified a form of cancer. His Majesty has today commenced a schedule of regular treatments, during which time he has been advised by doctors to postpone public-facing duties. Throughout this period, His Majesty will continue to undertake state business and official paperwork as usual." The statement also made clear why Charles had chosen to share the diagnosis at all. His Majesty has chosen to share his diagnosis to prevent speculation, and in the hope it may assist public understanding for all those around the world who are affected by cancer. This was a deliberate break with tradition. By disclosing his cancer, Charles broke centuries of royal protocol, but he shared only so much. He revealed the existence of the cancer, the fact that treatment had begun, and that he would temporarily step back from public duties. He did not reveal the type of cancer, the stage, the prognosis, or the specific treatment. That wall of privacy has remained intact. More than 2 years later, the palace still has not disclosed which form of cancer Charles was diagnosed with. For Camilla, those 5 days between the diagnosis and the public announcement were a private ordeal conducted in public view. She carried on with her engagements. She smiled. She asked the right questions. She did not falter. But inside, she was processing the same fear and uncertainty that any spouse would feel. In the Maggie's film, she described how the experience changed her perspective on her own work. "Normally, when I went in, I was just talking to them," she said, "but I felt it was much more deep. Suddenly your husband is diagnosed and you think, goodness, you've been talking to all these people, and I'm the one with some relation who's got to help to look after my poor husband and try to understand it all." There is something profoundly human in that admission. Camilla, the Queen Consort, the woman who for years was vilified in the press, who endured decades of public scrutiny, who married into the most famous family in the world, she was, in that moment, just a wife trying to make sense of her husband's illness. The titles, the palaces, the constitutional role, none of it shielded her from the raw emotion of watching someone she loved face cancer. And yet, even in her vulnerability, she found strength in Charles's own response. She said of her husband, "Nothing stopped him. He just said, 'This is my way, I'm going to cope with it.'" That stoicism, that determination to continue, became a defining feature of Charles's approach to his illness. He did not retreat from the world. He continued to conduct state business and official paperwork throughout his treatment. He held audiences, attended Privy Council meetings, and remained engaged with the machinery of government, even as he stepped back from public-facing duties. By April of 2024, just 2 months after the diagnosis was announced, Charles was able to resume public appearances. On the 30th of April, he visited a cancer treatment center alongside Camilla, marking his official return to public duties. The palace said he had made positive progress in his treatment. He looked well, he smiled, he shook hands. The machinery of the monarchy was back in motion. But the treatment continued. Throughout 2024 and into 2025, Charles received regular outpatient treatment. The palace did not provide details, but it was understood that he was receiving weekly treatment. He continued to balance his constitutional duties with his health regimen, always maintaining that public face of composure. Then, in December of 2025, Charles delivered a rare personal video message as part of the Stand Up to Cancer campaign. In that message, he shared what he called good news. Early diagnosis and effective intervention meant that his treatment could be reduced in the new year. The palace confirmed that the king had responded exceptionally well to treatment and that his recovery had reached a very positive stage. He was not described as being in remission, but the reduction in treatment was a significant milestone. It was around this same time that Camilla's remarks in the Maggie's film began to circulate more widely. The film, which had been recorded earlier, captured her candid reflections on those difficult days in January 2024. Her admission that she had been sworn to silence, that she had longed to share the burden, that she had found the experience deeply emotional. It all came into sharper focus against the backdrop of Charles's positive health update. The secret she had carried was no longer a secret. The weight she had borne was finally something she could speak about openly. Now, it is important to separate what is confirmed from what is reported. The confirmed facts are these. King Charles was diagnosed with a form of cancer in January 2024, discovered during treatment for a benign enlarged prostate. The palace announced the diagnosis on the 5th of February, 2024. The cancer is not prostate cancer, but the specific type has never been disclosed. Charles began regular treatment and postponed public-facing duties while continuing state business. He returned to public duties in April 2024. In December 2025, he announced that his treatment would be reduced, having responded exceptionally well. Queen Camilla visited a Maggie's center on the 31st of January, 2024, while the diagnosis was still private. She has since spoken about the difficulty of keeping that secret. The reported details, attributed to royal sources, include the claim that Camilla was effectively sworn to silence, that she felt desperate to share the news with the patients she met, and that she found the experience profoundly emotional. These reports come from Radar Online and other outlets, citing unnamed palace sources. They are plausible and consistent with Camilla's own public remarks, but they are not official palace statements. They represent informed reporting, not confirmed palace disclosure. And then there is the broader context, the deeper machinery underneath the story. The decision to keep the diagnosis secret for those 5 days was not about personal privacy alone. It was about control. In the royal household, information is managed with precision. The palace does not react to events, it announces them on its own terms. By waiting until the 5th of February, the palace ensured that the announcement would be made on a Monday, with a full news cycle to shape the narrative. It ensured that the king's own words, his chosen reason for sharing the diagnosis, would frame the story. It ensured that speculation would be prevented, not by hiding the diagnosis entirely, but by presenting it in a way that left no room for rumor. The palace gave the public just enough information to satisfy curiosity while reserving the details that mattered most. This is the royal way. It is not about deception. It is about sovereignty, the sovereign's right to control the narrative of his own life. Charles, who had waited 73 years to become king, who had spent a lifetime preparing for the role, understood this better than anyone. He knew that his health was not just his own concern. It was a matter of national stability. And so he chose to share what he could when he could on his own terms. For Camilla, that meant carrying a burden that no spouse should have to carry alone. She could not confide in friends. She could not seek comfort from the patients she met. She could not even fully acknowledge, in public, what she was going through. She had to maintain the royal facade while her heart was breaking. And she did it. She did it with grace, with composure, and with a deep understanding of the role she had chosen. But she also did it with a quiet determination to learn from the experience. In the Maggie's film, she spoke about how the diagnosis changed her understanding of the charity's work. She had been president for 16 years, but it had never really come back to roost at home. Suddenly, she was the one with a sick husband. Suddenly, she was the one trying to understand it all. That shift in perspective from patron to patient spouse gave her a new empathy, a new appreciation for what families go through. She said the conversations she had with patients felt much more deep. She was almost questioning them, trying to learn from their experience, trying to make sense of her own situation. Dame Laura Lee, the chief executive of Maggie's, reflected on Camilla's openness. She said, "The king's openness about his diagnosis has undoubtedly helped others to be more open themselves, and to now hear the queen's completely understandable and natural response as a wife shines a light on why it is so important that family and friends also get the support they need." That is the quiet legacy of this story. Charles's decision to speak openly about his cancer, even while withholding the specific details, has helped to normalize conversations about the disease. Camilla's willingness to admit her own struggle, to acknowledge the difficulty of keeping the secret, has reminded us that even queens are human. They worry, they fear, they long to share their burdens with others, and sometimes they are not allowed to. As of this writing, King Charles continues his treatment. The reduction in his treatment regimen is a positive sign, but the palace has not declared him cured or in remission. He remains the king, carrying out his duties with the same determination that Camilla described. Nothing stops him. He copes in his own way, and Camilla copes alongside him, no longer sworn to silence, but still guarding the details that matter most. The doors of the palace have opened just a crack. We have seen a glimpse of what it is like behind them, the fear, the secrecy, the impossible burden of carrying a king's illness in silence. But the full picture remains inside those walls. And perhaps that is as it should be. Some things, even in the age of transparency, are still private. Some burdens, even for a queen, are still borne alone. Camilla finally revealed what it was like, but she revealed only what she could. The rest, as always, stays behind palace doors.